Hello. Hello. With with a lot of this battle card game done, we're challenged kind of all over again. Because I mean done in the sense that we had some cards and we didn't know how to do battle. How are we going to do that? And then we kind of figured it out, and that worked out okay. And so now we have what a lot of people call the core gameplay loop, the center of what you do when you play this game is kind of done. It's a small loop. It only takes a few minutes to play. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And what we are challenged to do now is think about what this might look like if we broaden it out a little bit and think about what else you do. Because you don't play a game for, 5 minutes and kind of stop. You might play it again. Uh, Typically, there's good reasons to play it again. That's part of what we're talking about, I think. But the thing we started focusing on previously on the design day today was, is there some sort of longer progression to do? We called it a path. And the question was, if you play this game, do you progress? Is there some kind of achievement? Is there some long-term goal? And last time we also talked about the 5 things players might ask when they're playing a game. They say, well, who am I? Who am I? Where am I? They ask, what am I trying to do? What's the objective of this game? And they ask, what do I have working with me to achieve that goal? And they ask, what do I have working against me? These 5 questions help us because we really want to help the player at least understand the challenges that they face when they're playing a game. We also want to avoid the big issue of um, asking the player to play without understanding what's going on. That's an issue. It's pretty big. You don't want that. They quit. I mean, an option to play or not to play is always there, and the player can just say, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Bolt in it. They're in the middle of the game, been like, "Yeah, this game's not for me." Well, game design certainly wants to hear the player when they say that, and they certainly want to do something about it. They want to hear what the player has in terms of intention, expectation, doubts, fears, aspirations, dreams. Literally, what what are you thinking, player? What do you want? It is very much a psychology exercise. Because although we're not sitting there with the player as they play, our game is, and our game has the ability to perform based on rules that we can design. In billiards terms, it's a bank shot. A bank shot. We can ricochet off the wall and affect the player. So we can't do it directly, But we can certainly think really hard about how these rules will play out for the player, and think about what we might do to accommodate them. If they have dreams, can we make it seem like they are living out this dream, this fantasy? If they have fears, can we alleviate them or make them feel like they have some power against them? So understanding the player is kind of a big deal. In the case of what we're trying to do now, part of what the expectations might entail is I expect to play the game for more than one match. And here we are about to complete one match. And we can kind of see a small progression. We can kind of see, well, we talked about the tenets of design earlier as well. There's some variation, there's some contrast, there's some rhythms here, and there's some progression. We're moving on from 3 cards to 4 cards. Okay, getting towards the end of the match. Oh, we're dying big time. We're totally gonna die. Getting a card advantage is like the main strategy. Ooh, wow. Dare I say the dominant strategy. Yeah, get a card advantage, and that's the whole ballgame. So we played a match, and a player could be like, "Hey, that's awesome, cool. What else is there in this game?" Right? Uh, yeah. And if they start doing this and they're like, "Okay, well, I guess I saw the whole game. Quit." I mean, we need to offer the quit button to the player because it's one of the things they expect to be able to do. What if they have to, like, go to work or whatever? They're late for class. They got to hit the quit button. In fact, they kind of want their progress saved. I mean, let's just fantasize about a game that we don't have yet, but players are playing it, and we're imagining that experience. And so it's like, oh yeah, I got to quit, and hopefully all my progress is saved. I'll come back and pick it up from. Well, we don't have any progress. This is it. This is the whole thing right now. You can start round 1, and you pick from these cards. Well, it's nice. I mean, there's lots here. Like I said, this core gameplay loop is here. We have cards. Right? They're kind of silly, but we have them. We have a table, and we have an AI player that's silly, blah, blah, blah. We have this. But if this is what you do on the smallest level of playing the game, what do you do one level up from that? Right? What is there that sort of surrounds this kind of gameplay, where this core gameplay matters in the context of something larger, some more progress that is bigger? Imagine, I mean, what we're sort of indicating for the player with this view is that we are across the table from somebody, an opponent who is, at least able to play the game, if not a formidable opponent. Okay, well, who is this? And is this something we just do with this person over and over again to pass the time, and that's our lot in life? That's it? Is that all there is? Que sera, sera. So the point is, maybe we could use some of this that we're already talking about to the player. By displaying this, we're sort of hinting, suggesting that there is an opponent. And right now, I know for a fact this opponent just makes silly decisions randomly. And in that way, not very difficult opponent, but could be harder. Could it be harder? How could it be harder? Well, perhaps they really do look at these stats of what I've got and decide I'm going to go for this one with the least health. So they change their marching orders midway through to accommodate that. I like the effects and how they show up so much nicer against the dark background. This wood grain, this walnut tabletop is something we added last time. Well, okay. How could it be harder? How could the opponent be more difficult, right? I gotta be honest, there's really not a whole lot of options. If you know how to play, then what you're doing is just weeding out the terrible cards, like I'm doing right now. But this card with a 1 in it is not a card I want to play. The idea of going least health is not a bad idea. I want a card advantage. This might the danger is that this might be totally imbalanced because this might be a dominant strategy. But I'll keep with least health. At least I could select it, but I'm gonna go with least health and maybe change it later if I want a specific card to go away. Maybe one in the middle of the formation. And speaking of formation, I have to pick my formation. What am I gonna do? I don't know. I can meet this one early, and if I meet it with my best card, I'm gonna say it's the one with a lot of health and defense and power. It might be okay. They might win that one-on-one and then be available to help. So I'll give them a little bit of health, give them a little bit of help, and set it up so that these are in line like that. Now I just happen to mirror the opponent's formation again because I want to match. I want to control which card comes first. So maybe this is a way a more competent player can play. Maybe this is how the opponent could be harder. I could set the rules for the AI to do this. Yeah, at least a little bit better than the random player. Maybe this player also looks at the matchups of the cards that are turned over so far, targets one of them in particular. Yeah, I kind of want to go for the Coffee Badger here to get rid of this one. This one has so much health, it's going to be hard to get rid of them. So I'll go for the one with the least luck right now. So both these cards attacked Coffee Badger. I'm sitting here looking at this. Ooh, I got lucky with 2 luck wins. Wow. 3 luck wins. This card had 1 health for 3 cycles of battle and pulled off a luck win because it had a 9 in luck. That was amazing, actually. Super rare. And I like that that's possible. There's some good things with this core gameplay, and of course, having something to play is also an achievement. Let's not minimize that, but also at the same time, let us also keep in our head that this is almost done. We have one more round. This is the most you can do with this core gameplay loop is 3 rounds. Now we have 5 cards. And we're kind of at the end of what this loop can do. This is the danger that we're now going to work on. Every single card has a 1 in it. Wonderful. Like every single one. This is now distributed more fairly, but we happen to get the bad draw. All right, well then, with the wins, I'm gonna have to work with that. Um, well, let's see. We have some power cards, a health card, a defense card, and a luck card. I do like health cards because they can last for longer, and as long as the defense is not awful. Oh gosh. Wow. This is garbage. I can't use these. Okay, so I need to use defense and speed if I can. Boy, these are not great. Not great. But I'll use speed earlier, I suppose. And try to meet these cards at the same time. Meet all of them at the same time is the goal. And perhaps get away with it, because if there's two cards attacking one of mine, that's hard. But with all of them turned over at the same time, really what we effectively have is one-on-one all over the place. Now this is changed because I have marching orders that I can play with, but I'm going to have to be quick and clever, which I'm not right now. I need more coffee to switch up my marching orders and get them to do something a little more intelligent. Aha, we are winning. We're doing well. And we have two luck cards sitting here battling it, so they have decent luck too, so it's not going to be a luck win. We just grinded it out. Wow. Actually pulled that off. There's something good about the things that we have in this core gameplay, and yet at the same time, if we say, great, I'm done, that was fun, now what? There is absolutely no answer. The game does not offer anything else. And that's the issue that we need to work with. That's what we need to talk about today. That's what we need to brainstorm about. A brainstorm is actually a formal technique performed in design fields. I may have mentioned this before, but we're going to talk about it today because we do need to entertain new ideas while maintaining this is in place, this game as it is, which is small and short. I mean, literally 5 minutes of gameplay. That's it. And you can play it again, but that's it. Those are your two options. Do that thing and do it again. Once you've done it once, then your only option is to do it again. This is really small amount of gameplay. Now, we took pains to ensure that this gameplay was pretty solid, that it, first of all worked, but then also had some elements in it that aren't too bad. They have some surprise and some amount of control. Actually, starting to believe there's room for a lot more control, which is good. We can work that into the ideas we have today. I think there's more ways the player should be in control of what's going on. And I think at the moment there's this screen here that has control, and then you give it up for the next screen. That's what that means is there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to do more. Rather than sit here and watch it play out, which is largely what we do at this point. I mean, I don't even know if I still want this do battle button, other than to adjust the marching orders if we want. So there's opportunity to do more here, but I don't know what it is. It's possible that we do halt battle to do those things that have more control. We're still entertaining the idea that frantically clicking these buttons to change the marching orders is better. Maybe. At this point, there's just 2 cards, so it doesn't matter. But mostly there's a little bit of control in the beginning and less control at the end, and that's the rhythm. And we go through 3 rounds of it and done. Well, okay. No. I mean, so I'm advocating for the player now and saying, no, I want more. Otherwise, I'm done. Like, I'm going to hit this quit button. Stop me from hitting the quit button. I'm the player, and prevent me from hitting the quit button by offering me something so much more enticing than quit. Right now, there's nothing. I mean, eventually, this again and again and again runs out, and the player will hit the quit button. Doesn't matter. There's credits and options and the path is might be something we play with today. Let's imagine what it is that these things could be. We haven't really talked about this game as a deck building game. There's 50 cards, and that's all there is. This is by design. Yet now we're here with these 50 cards, and we should consider maybe there should be more than this. Maybe that's one of the ideas that helps us. Maybe these 50 cards are a part of the core gameplay that are always there. And other cards are brought into the mix on each match. This sounds more like a deck building game because you can acquire new cards. The players you play against now are offering new challenge simply because they have new cards. These better be special cards. What do we got? That's what we're talking about today. So, I will offer the idea that we draw. I should stop this. Okay. There we go. I'll switch this up and draw. The idea is we are at a point now where we could and should be thinking about what else. Let's keep it simple. What else is there? I mean, the player is asking this, right? We should be responding to the player, right? I mean, we've got a card game that really deserves a better name than this, but just haven't found it yet. I think we've recently talked about the themes of this game being something like battle, yes, but also not taking itself too seriously because those card names are silly. This title right now is silly. But also tactics and strategy and the balance of control plus surprise. I mean, there's some elements of all games and elements of our game that we want to help inform what could be. Now that we've got this core gameplay, what else could we do? We just played through what we have, and that includes the ability to jump in from the menu to the core gameplay and back out. And effectively, that's all we got. And this game right now is really just so tiny. Round 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. Sometimes not even 3. Well, right? Play this game. 1, 2, 3, done. And you could do it again. 1, 2, 3, done. But it's almost like every time we get back to the menu, the player's being asked, do you want to quit? 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 And all they have to do is say yes. And they're gone. They're gone forever. So sad. This is what we're trying to prevent. We're advocating for the player's experience. If there's no experience, there's nothing to advocate for. Can't be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood. Okay, that didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. When we were talking about deck building, we were talking about a path. The path looked something like this. Like you play this game loop 1, 2, 3 in a match against an opponent. And if you win, you can move on and you play again against another opponent. And if you win, you could play again against another. This is the path. This is the path idea. You know, and it's not terrible. It does at least offer progression. This is what we're trying to get in place because the player's asking, what is my long-term goal? You can definitely think about it like traveling a distance, getting to a destination, right? Well, this destination could be about getting to the end of this path and just, that's the end of the road. It's actually pretty weak, but it's more than just this. It's more than just this first step. So this is why at least we were thinking about this. And the deck building idea would be something else where progression takes the form of brand new cards that you're going to be able to get. And perhaps the first one is known. I mean, we could effectively have known cards available at some place, at places along a path like this. That's, so that you will get this particular card once you get to this point. And that's something to work for, right? Just the idea of saying, you're going to play against this opponent, and when you do, they might defeat you, and that's just your tough luck. You're stuck here. But if you defeat them, then you get this extra thing. I mean, I want to beat this guy more now, but it's the same situation. I mean, logically speaking, it is the same. But this incentive is real. We just have to offer it. We have to communicate it to the player. We just have to have it mean something. Often we just suggest it, the player figures out the meaning for themselves. But in this case, deck building might actually be something like we have tangible goods to offer the player. A completely different card that they get to have. They get to have this card. So what? What does that mean? Well, deck building games typically do this thing. In the match, you are playing against an opponent. They are laying cards down on the table, as are you. But the kicker in a deck building game is, along with the 50 cards that are, being dealt and used for all 3 rounds of this match, you also have your extra special cards, and so do they. These cards are cards that aren't part of the 50. They are cards that you are given during the game, or perhaps even you have them. It's just part of what you have in your player persona, your account. In that way, you could elect to use them in this match. Perhaps there's a limit to how many you can use per match or per round or both. But the idea is, along with our core gameplay, which is all this, we could insert brand new stuff like this. Players could elect to choose special cards that they have acquired. In the beginning, you've got nothing, so in the beginning, it is the core gameplay that we have. But then they get a card, and now they have the option to use it during gameplay, during one match or during one round or what have you. And now that core gameplay is augmented, it's changed, it's made a little more strategic and complex by offering something else the player can do. Just like this progression, this path, offering a card if they win is a little incentive that's just enough to put the question mark in the player's brain. What happens if I do get this? I don't know what that experience is, but I can imagine it's something different. Let's go check it out. Let's do it. It translates to motivation. In that same way, having a new card to play might be motivation enough to play again. This again is actually a goal because it's either again or it's quit. And we don't want this. We don't want them to quit. We want them to play again. I don't want this to devolve into dark design patterns, but we're playing with psychology and we're trying to perform, we're trying to have the game systems perform an experience presented to the player they can engage in and want to continue. We're at this stage because the core gameplay is done, or relatively so. There might actually be a bug or two that we run into, but that's fine. This core gameplay is relatively complete. And it's fine. It is together and it's something we can build on. But that's actually what we're talking about. With this core gameplay set as a foundation, we're now looking to build stuff on top of it. What is on top of it, right? It could be this simple path idea. It could be extra cards that we add onto it. It could be both. Right? To say, well, let's entertain a bunch of different ideas and see which ones rise to the top, which ones highlight as really attractive ideas that match with a player's expectations, their ambitions for a game like this. I want to play a game where I am the general and I select my forces and go into battle, and I become better and better at that through understanding the core gameplay, how to set formations, how to choose the cards, how to set the marching orders and things. And now I'm learning a new thing, which is when and how to apply the cards that I have. And I'm working towards a goal along this path. You see how this is starting to sound like something you want to do again, as opposed to quit. Right? Let's roll with that, because a brainstorming session can help us to ideate. That word does come from idea. To ideate is the verb. We are making ideas. But that's only half of the story. A brainstorming session is not just that. That's a myth. The brainstorming session then uses those ideas to distill into effectively the best idea or ideas. And the way that we find the best ones is to stop ideating and start a different side of the process. So let's talk about this. So we want to think about the core gameplay as a basis, and now we are trying to come up with the layers of gameplay on top. Let's first ask the right question. A brainstorming session is effectively, if I just draw this out as a chart, you have a big old question. And honestly, this is a superpower. When designers pull out this tool and use it, it's kind of magic. There's some question and we just don't have the answer. Designer, what are we doing? Everyone's looking at the designer. The pressure's on. What do you do? What do you do? Well, do this. It's magic and it works every time. Because at this point, you can say, oh, how much time do we have? And you say, well, we got 10 minutes. Okay, great. Let's spend 5 minutes and we'll do what's called divergent thinking. Fancy word. Divergent. I'm not spelling today. Divergent thinking is ideation. We are coming up with as many ideas as possible. And then 5 minutes in, we stop. We don't do that anymore because we get all these ideas. We're just rapid fire coming up with any idea. And critically, all ideas are good in this phase of divergent thinking. But we stop. And then we have 5 minutes left. Easy. We do what's called convergent thinking. Fancy word. We are negotiating, we are combining, we are voting, we are prioritizing, we're highlighting, we are downvoting. Everything that we can do to take those ideas and whittle them down to the best idea in 5 minutes. Hey, we're done. That's what we're doing. They asked, what are we doing, designer? And 10 minutes later, this is what we're doing. And critically, we include everyone in the process. During that time, whoever's invested in this decision, please be involved. Help us with the divergent thinking and all those good ideas you have. Any idea is good. But then we stop and help us converge onto the best idea. And the reasoning why ideas are good or bad become a discussion that they are a part of. And that means at the end of this, they are invested in this decision as well. Win. Not only did we make a decision, but everyone already agrees. That's how awesome that is. It is magic. So let's perform that. First thing we need to do is form this question correctly. The very polite Canadian way to say this is, how might we? The how might we question is, it's a classic. This is very, very standard. This is how you form this question in a way that invites idea and assures people that no idea is bad. We're looking for all ideas. So how might we extend the player experience? And I'm going to keep it broad for a moment because we can always do more brainstorming on finer questions later. But the point of saying the player experience is right now just the core gameplay, just the core game, but just those 3 rounds at most, and that's it. How do we extend that? That's a great question. Because if there is a extension, then we have offered something for the player to do aside from hitting the quit button. I mean, I could just as easily have written this like, how might we prevent the player from hitting the quit button? And one of the ideas is hide it, make it really small, put it in another language. All ideas are good in the divergent phase, and so they'd all be written down as crazy as they are. Typically we would do this with multiple people, not just little old me. But and I am totally ignoring my other responsibilities. Thank you very much. One second. All right. When we do this, it is supposed to be a group effort, but there's no reason why, if I need to do it solo, I can't do it solo. So we'll try it. How might we extend the player experience? Well, we talked about a path or a series of, a series of single matches, right? That's one idea. We could have a score. Yeah. This I hear this one all the time. Let's just add score, and now players have an incentive to get a higher score, a leaderboard. Okay, fine. All ideas are good. I'm just going to write them down. What if we can unlock cinematics? Let's tell them that if they keep playing, they're going to unlock story, right? Whether it is actually cinematics or it's just more lore or something like that, whatever. Um, it's basically there's a series of gates, and if you keep playing, you're going to unlock more gates and get more stuff. Cool. Speaking of stuff, could we give them cards uh, to build decks? I mean, yes. we I never ever ever thought of this as a deck building game, but yes. What else? Um, we can upgrade the cards in the core gameplay to the cosmetics of it, right? The back of the card, the we could put animations on the card image. Uh, we can upgrade the tabletop. I just trying to come up with something, right? The reasons to extend the player experience. I kept it this broad so that all these ideas would still kind of work. Um, we could upgrade the visual effects. Yeah, absolutely. Now, that, you might say, well, wait, does that mean that the visual effects in the beginning are terrible? Well, that's the thing. They can't be, right? Otherwise, we've got a problem. But they're bad right now, and they're temporary now. Anyway, to say that they only indicate when visual effects should happen is probably true. It's accurate right now, but they could be better. What else? We can offer tougher AI opponents. I think this is almost a given, actually. We kind of need to have that because otherwise, why wouldn't we, right? Um, we could um, looking at the core gameplay again, just for reference. What are these ideas? And we're effectively talking about what is this offering here, and um, cards to build decks. Yeah. Upgrade card cosmetics, or how about just evolve cards? Yes. I know I'm stealing. Like actually upgrade the card stats and things, right? So those ones turns into twos and things like that. But wait, does that happen for all cards? Doesn't that how does that make the experience better? Hold on. I don't want to go into convergent thinking now, but that's one of the criticisms. We're going to skip that. We'll come back to it later because we still have a couple of minutes. All ideas are good. That's why we're writing them down. We could have upgrade card cosmetics. I kind of like the idea of like uh, animated sequences, animated finisher sequences. Like if you finish a round, have a big sequence of the one card who's doing the attacking versus the one card who's defending. I can think of a couple ways that could actually be simplified, but it would look really cool to have a big old finisher sequence. And that would be a cinematic, actually. Even if it was like low budget, sliding images over cards, blah, blah, blah. We could do limited animation. What else? All ideas are good. This is where I would want chat. I'm literally looking over at the chat to see if anyone's here. That's why you should follow and show up on stream. Okay. No, I'm not guilting you. You're guilting you. Extending the player experience. I think. Oh goodness, of course. We'll just have a rank for how well you play and your win and loss, and set a rank for your win and loss record. What else? Which is nothing more than you get to show off your rank. There's I guess, a profile you could have, and in that way the rank could actually be shown, but you could also have cosmetics on the profile, a la the player card in Valorant and other Riot games. Yes. What else? What else? Yes, I'm stealing. I'm not stealing. You're stealing. Couple more. Couple more. Ways to extend this experience. This core gameplay is one thing. What else? I mean, offer additional modes of play. I don't know, a 1v1 or some other things. I don't know. New game modes. I'm not even sure what those would be yet, but it would definitely extend the play to say, hold on, it's not just this core gameplay, it's a different form of this, which we would have to come up with. And what else? What else? What else? Profile cosmetics could be everything from the colors and art that you use to your name to title, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm totally stealing from Valorant. Yeah. So rank and trophy might be the same thing, but I'll just write it down anyway. Trophies. Okay. Medals, whatever. Like a general gets medals. Actually, that's not a bad idea. All right. So here's where we've gone through half of this process and we want to stop. No more new ideas. Why? Because time. I mean, I'm not pressed for time, but I'm trying to demonstrate the process. And the idea is you take half of the time to ideate and half the time to be critical and converge, critique these ideas, what works well, what could be better, and decide which ones really just are better than others, which aren't so great, right? You could apply any criteria you want at this stage. For example, how hard something might be to do or how long it might take, sure. But I would suggest, because we are most concerned, let's say, with the player experience, it's always safe to go back to the player. And in this case, it's critical because this is what the question's about. In that way, let's just use a primary criteria of how valuable would it be for a player to have this offered, right? If you say, hey player, you get to cosmetically change the look of the tabletop. Thanks? I don't think too many people would be like, okay, I hate you now. No, nobody would say that, but they would say, why? Or it better be a good tabletop, something, right? I took a quick Google search to find my walnut color on this tabletop, and it's not bad. It's definitely an upgrade from the gray that we had earlier, but I gotta be honest, I could have picked from dozens of other looks for this tabletop, and I don't know, it doesn't really look that different. I mean, it is nice that it's a nice walnut color. The grains of the wood are nice, and it's nice. But am I gonna be grinding to get a new tabletop? No, I'm not. In that way, this might be downvoted. That's one way to convergent think, right? Another way is to highlight it and be like, well, I don't mind the idea of getting new cards and making this kind of a deck building game. I kind of like that idea, actually. And I'm going to promote that. I'm going to highlight it, right? If there's a series of matches and a path to go on, and you include tougher AI with this, I'm combining these two ideas now. Yeah, actually, that's pretty cool. With tougher AI. And this is also part of the convergent thinking process. I can Franken idea these things and put them together. No reason why I can't. So I'm kind of negotiating. Like I'm putting this over here now, right? This is now part of that. I do want tougher opponents. Actually, there's a separate idea that could be done with this tougher AI. We are very far away from talking about artificial evolution, but AI techniques could be definitely done to train off of the current player and get better against the current player and do much, much more with that after. Boy, that's a long way away. We aren't talking about that for this game. We're talking about, well, maybe for this game, but we're talking about that for another time. We need to talk about this gameplay. And I don't have anything against rank, but profile cosmetics, we don't even have a profile yet for the player. But maybe that is something we're going to need, at least to, say, keep track of what cards they have in their deck or what path position they're on at minimum. So we're actually going to need a profile. This is, you know what? Yeah, profile cosmetics, which is really an indication that we need a profile. That's kind of necessary. If we implement any of these ideas outside the core gameplay, we're going to need to keep track of the progress that we are going to offer them. So, yeah. Score. Hi, 1980s. They called and they want their idea back. This is dumb. This made sense in the context of a pinball machine and competing against other arcade games, where you could have a score, and when your friend took a turn playing the game, you could compare score. Same with leaderboard. This is exactly why these exist. Now, you could have a leaderboard with rank, I mean, height, right? But man, I'm still not convinced that's what this game is. This is a game about strategy and tactics in the context of that core gameplay. And now we're layering things on top of that. It can't be completely divorced from that core gameplay. Instead, we need to be building off of that core gameplay. In that way, actually, I kind of like this. Something cool that happens when you finish a round. This variation, this contrast from the typical gameplay you're playing to a special cinematic of some kind might be kind of cool. I accidentally made that really big. It doesn't mean I like it more. I'm just highlighting it. Evolving card stats, kind of, but as I suggested while we were in the middle of divergent thinking, this has a problem. I wouldn't want that for the cards, the 50 cards I would actually want that more for the cards that we have to apply. Like I could permanently upgrade the card that I have collected. That would definitely be a big thing to, that would be huge. Not only could you collect the cards, but then you could evolve them, sort of combining these two ideas. See, this convergent thinking now has a lot to work with, and it's a different way of thinking. That's why we have this big old stop in the middle. This is critical, actually, right? Because you could do this forever. And some people think that brainstorming is just this, and you're missing the point, because we are getting to a point. This is the point. But we've already begun to weed out the ones that are less important and highlight the ones that are more important. There's some that are in the middle. Unlocking story and upgrading the cosmetics on the cards, meh. I would hope that by the time we call this, we put this down and say it's ready for other people to enjoy, that we've already upgraded the visual effects and that they're awesome. Perhaps evolving card stats includes upgrading the look of them and the visual effects of them. Perhaps that is true. It's going to get messy. A new game mode. Wow. I guess that would definitely make it more interesting. It's just we have no other game mode. It's this. I mean, early on when we were developing this, we had a 1 versus 1, right? You pick one card. You pick one card, I'll pick one card, and they just duke it out. Roar. And that was the whole thing. And of course, that wasn't enough, so we graduated to the formations and multiple cards and stuff. But I don't know. Gambling style, it is sort of like, high-low or something. Eh, is that really great? No. Until I find a reason to make this, I can't think of a game mode right now. Until I do, this is a question mark. In other words, it's not currently a highlighted thing, and we're on the clock. Trophies and medals, I mean, sure, actually, if it's tied to maybe the path, kind of. I mean, levels, trophies, medals, just some measure of progress, actually. Yeah, let's call it levels as well. And now I'm ready to promote this. Okay. Well, we were looking for ideas to how might we extend the player experience. And I think along with a bunch of ideas that we're probably not thrilled with, we've combined some to be really great. If we say we're going to offer the player the chance to progress by collecting cards that can be evolved and they will look better and play better because their stats are upgraded as well. They will be tracked with their level and progress as trophies and medals and levels because they have a profile. And we can track where they are along perhaps a path, like a campaign, maybe. That might be a good word for it because that's a standard name that players will recognize. A campaign mode that allows them to go through a series of challenges of tougher AI to arrive at cards to unlock, cards to evolve, levels to get. An animated finisher just by default sounds awesome. An animated finisher because you evolve to the card sounds even better. Like the core gameplay is what it is, but we augment it with this evolving the card thing. Yeah. Rank, I don't care. Literally, until this is a multiplayer game, I mean, true multiplayer game, I don't think it's any different than the trophies, medals, and level, frankly. I gotta be honest. Part of what I want to be able to test is a matchmaking system and some of our theory about how the matchmaking system in Valorant works. Type that in chat. The idea is we have a game, and if we made it multiplayer, we could also have that same system and test out. Oh, I can't do it from here. I'll do it later. Could also test out that same mechanism and see if it looks exactly the same as the matchmaking system in Valorant. And I think it would. Could test that theory. Unlock more story. I'm really not sold on it. I'm really not sold on it. Either we have it because, of course, we're sort of upgrading all of the everything about the game, or we just keep. I mean, we could do a lot with story. We can assert some of the theme very strongly, like we don't take ourselves too seriously. We could assert the theme of battle very seriously. I just contradicted myself. But the point is, there's some value there. I just don't know what it is yet. Okay, so let's call it done. This was a whole brainstorming session that included two halves. The divergent thinking. We spent half our time just coming up with a list of crazy stuff, and everything was good, and then we stopped. And then we did convergent thinking for the same amount of time, and promoted some things, combined some things, downvoted some things, until it became clearer which of these ideas actually stand out. And I think we've done that. What we want to do now to extend the gameplay, and again, there's no reason why we can't do more brainstorming, do brainstorming again. There's no reason why we can't. But I think what we have settled on is, yes, deck building is where this has to go. There is a collection of cards that players can have. Building. We need a profile to save progress for each player. It means they're collecting cards. Cards can be evolved. This evolves their stats, their cosmetics, animated finisher, or flashy finisher of some kind. We don't want to forget that the profile includes progress and level. We want to offer a campaign path. You collect as a reward, and the AI is tougher. And there could be multiple campaigns. In fact, there could be a rotating campaign, a procedural campaign generated like once a day or once a week, I don't know, where the rewards, the AI are just generated. It's basically going to be a linear path. Maybe it's got branches on that path and you can decide to go to one or the other because you know the AI or you know the reward or both. You would have to know something, otherwise the choice doesn't mean anything. I'm just thinking out loud while I'm doing all this. So collecting these ideas, making sure we got all the good ones together, and ignoring the ones that we don't care about. Yes, I think we got it. And that's a short list. Yes? It's pretty targeted too. In fact, we should now prioritize these things. I definitely would say you want to collect things as a reward and then tougher AI. I definitely would say the evolution of cards really at least needs to have this flashy, cool stuff you do when you evolve it. And cosmetics, I suppose. I mean, all this is important. In fact, collecting cards, which also means we need to have new cards, is number one. This has to be number one. If it's a deck building game now, I'm not saying we're doing this because we're calling it a deck building game. I'm saying deck building sounds like an awesome incentive to play again. If I can play and I know how to play now, that's an incentive in its own self, but it's got diminishing returns. If I can play again because I know how and because I have more things to my advantage, I want to play again because I think I'm going to have a better chance of winning, even against tougher enemies. This is great. There's a reason why this is a standard. But to do that, we absolutely need a profile to save that progress. I think that we could just offer cards on their own. So a campaign is not necessary in that way, and so I'm going to order it this way. Number one, we need new cards. We need to offer the player the option to collect them. And to collect them, even when they quit the game and come back later, means that we need to profile. But at the same time, we can have them cosmetically name themselves, give themselves a little icon or some other visual identity, perhaps more than one, a title, a player card, blah, blah, blah. And track their progress in terms of level, medals, trophies, rank, whatever. This is all part of the same thing. And once we have those things, in fact, we should really consider of collected cards. I want to be specific about this because I don't think we're talking about ever evolving the core 50 card deck of 50. Collected cards, I guess. So we have a short list of things that we can do to extend the gameplay. And this is a hardcore tool of game design to be able to perform this brainstorming session. Like we're sitting here kind of throwing these ideas around. This is less useful, right? We could be quickly married to a particular idea, like this path idea. That could have been the whole thing and could have gone down a whole effort of development and then been like, hey, it's okay. This is dangerous, right? And when people talk about brainstorming as just throwing out some ideas and then doing that is not just lazy, it's dangerous. Because design is really about critically thinking or using critique, as in what works well, what could be better. Critical thinking, being critical, doesn't mean being negative. It means understanding the priority of things, what works well, what could be better. So this process instead, where we do all the everything kind of divergent thinking, all ideas are good process, but then stop and consider all those ideas to find the best idea. Talk about the qualities of these things, why they work well, why they could be better. And now, with that perspective, understand how they could be combined, understand the priority of them, understand how they might fit together. And that's what we did. Just keep in mind, there's no reason you couldn't do more brainstorming. Another one, future ones, a week from now, etc. Asking new, finer questions about other detailed things. This tool is awesome and works all the time, and it works like magic. And like I said, everybody is already on board and sold with the idea by the time you're done. It works really well. In that way, I think we got it, at least for now, right? Because we can always adjust as we go. We do want to consider we're going to add cards to this game. Cards that are going to be on top of the 50 that we have, but cards that the player can retain from one match to the next. They have their own deck of cards. It's a true deck building game. I honestly didn't think that's where we were going with this. I thought the core gameplay was going to, well, I don't know, I didn't know what it was going to do, but I honestly kept it open. Intentionally, so that we could arrive at the best idea. Being comfortable with ambiguity is sort of it is a requirement for being a designer. You cannot be so scared about the uncertain that you make a bad decision and say, thank God we made a decision, and just march down the road, because you just aimed wrong and you're going to add it, you're going to end up in a bad place. Instead, being comfortable with, I don't know, let's see what happens, and we will change if that's bad. Or let's see what happens, and we will take the opportunity as it presents itself, is such a better place to be when we are considering, hey, designer, what are we doing? At all times, being comfortable with ambiguity is a requirement. In that way, I wasn't sure about it, but no, yeah, actually, deck building sounds like an awesome idea to pursue, especially since we have a core gameplay ready to go. It's time. We are absolutely going to need to save the progress of our player, not just in the session of game that they play, but when they come back and play it again after a day of work. They may actually be performing some of these psychological modes of thinking called immersion. While they're playing it, they're just absolutely oblivious to the world around them. They are totally immersed in the game, and all their inputs to their brain and all their outputs from their brain are all about the game, and they are immersed. They lose track of time. They, don't hear their kid screaming in the background or whatever, right? That's immersion. Another phenomenon that we would love our game to promote is persistence. That is to say, when they go to work or school, they're still thinking about the game. They're thinking about what they can do with that card they just got. They're thinking about a different formation they should be using. They're thinking about a different way they should approach marching orders. They're thinking about, if I can get to that next stage of progress, I'm going to be able to upgrade my card, and that's going to mean that I can go for that next campaign, and they're in the game while they're at work or school. That's called persistence. Immersion and persistence are two really desirable qualities that we want to hit. We can't do that if, when they quit the game, everything resets. So this is sort of a necessary thing. In fact, I'm almost going to say it comes first. We're going to need some time to think about what cards to do. I'm happy with this order and this priority. I think deck building is sort of top priority, absolutely. But in terms of development, we probably want to get our profile down first, and frankly, it's going to be relatively simple comparatively. This is going to be more thinking and more problem solving, which I'm happy to just set aside for now. We do want to consider what this evolution of these new cards might be, and of course we need the cards first, but then considering what it means when we increase stats. Actually, stats of Core gameplay cards. Oof. Yeah. Card evolution. This might be a quality that we need to keep, again, ambiguous, like unfamiliar how this is being applied. Like, do you collect a card and you have it in your deck and you go from match to match and you have this, and then you can upgrade that card? Maybe. But also, there are stats on the core gameplay cards, the 50, and upgrading them actually might be a special thing you could do with one of your cards. Those ones, those cards that I get when I'm playing this core gameplay, I get this card and I'm like, I'm really sad that it's like I get a one, a card with a distributed amount of stats, but instead of a three or a two, the card has a one on the bottom. Oh, of course, I'm trying to demonstrate the idea and I don't have one. But you see how it is 10, 9, 7, 5, and 3? You see how this is 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2? Well, sometimes there's a 10, 7, 5, 3, 1. Those are bad. There's an even distribution of all these stat cards, but they are a pain. And wouldn't it be neat if you could say, well, I've got a card in my deck that I can apply now to this card and upgrade it. So instead of it being a 2, right? Instead of being 8, 6, 4, 2, I could have 10, 9, 7, 5, 3. I've just upgraded it. So now Rocket Dragon is more powerful than it was. I supercharged my Rocket Dragon. That could be a special card that I have. I can play once per match. I can apply it to one card and boom. That sounds valuable. That sounds like a good thing to collect. You can take it to your next match and upgrade another card in another round another time. That sounds great. Maybe you could upgrade that and, I don't know, get 2. I'm not really sure we could do that. I don't know how far we can take the balancing of these core stats. I don't know if you could upgrade it more than that, but sounds valuable to me. Sounds like something I would want to do as a player. And in that way, I'm down. Like, gimme. I want to play again. Instead of quit, I want to play. That's the goal. Cool. So, no. This one, please. And that way, I want to keep this loose. This card evolution idea could mean lots of things, but I really like it enough that it's here on the list. And this campaign path, this is actually also really straightforward as well. It's relatively easy to do, but it is low priority, so I'm not going to worry about it now. Long story short, it will be accessible in that path button. We'll probably call it campaign. I like this name way better than path. But it is a path. It's just going to be a, start here, and if you win, you do something. And you can choose and go to this or that match. And if you win those, you get this or that. And if you win those, you can go up against this one. And if you win that, you get this. I think that's reasonable. Could it be a much longer path with all these stages? And could it be linear and blah, blah, blah? Sure. I mean, this is basically a battle pass, right? Right? You can get all the way through this and you collect these things. That's a battle pass, absolutely. Something like that. This is really straightforward, especially if we already have a profile. It's holding the progress of that. No big deal. I mean, then we just have matches and we have rewards and we have a difference in AI enough that it makes sense. This is harder. This is easier. That's straightforward. That's pretty easy. I kind of want to, starting tomorrow, set up our profile. Make it so that the player has a way to name themselves, make their own identity, And we can build on that to store data. What level are you? How many games have you played? What is your win and loss record? If there is a campaign path, where are you on that campaign? What cards have you collected? How have they evolved? Right? I think this deck building #1 idea is really going to require more brainstorming because we need ideas related to which cards could I collect. We just talked about a supercharge card that could be applied to any one card in your match. Like before you go to play and go into battle with it, you can lay it down and apply the supercharge, and now you've upgraded their stats. That's a great idea for one of the cards. There's no reason why we couldn't just continually add to this idea list of what special cards the player might collect. They would be separate from the 50 cards in the core gameplay, that's for sure. These 50 cards in the core gameplay are designed to be balanced and even as a means to make sure this core gameplay works in a fair way, that it is your tactics and strategy that win the day, not the stats. So I really don't want to mess with these cards yet. Not until you do something special like apply supercharge to one of them or something because of the cards you have in your hand or your deck or whatever. So I think what we've been talking about is you have a profile, you have a deck that you can build, you have a campaign you can go on. You can evolve your cards and your profile and your appearance. I mean, all these lower ideas, we didn't throw these away. At some point where we're like, oh man, upgrading your tabletop would be rad. Okay, let's bring that back. Let's promote this again. I mean, we could totally do that if we wanted to. The idea being that with our loose idea of something more to do again, leading us to talk about progress and extension of the player experience, right? Now when we've got some more concrete ideas that are promoted to say we are now building on the core gameplay to be available to have a more deck building kind of game with a path of campaign and some evolution. Well, I mean, you can save your progress. This is starting to build up to be a reason to say, let's play again. Let's continue to play. Let's play again tomorrow. Let's play again next week. Let's come back and play again, play this game again, because I have some progress and I have some things I want to do still. When we talk about those 5 questions, who am I? I am a general of forces that go into battle, and I'm gaining skill. I'm gaining ability. I'm gaining progress. As I do so, there's more reason for me to continue, more reason to keep going again. The where am I? It's interesting. That tabletop cosmetic stuff is starting to make some sense now. It could be that along with the idea of a path where you go from one place to another to go against a match, against a particular opponent, that the tabletop reflects the opponent. That's an interesting idea for a campaign. What is my objective? This is what we've been working on all day on this stream. What's the object of the game? Well, before it was just play again. Effectively, why do this game? Answer again. That's a crappy answer. I'm sorry, that's just weak. Instead, now we're starting to say there is an object. You're playing this core game for the first time and you're getting used to what this core game is. But there's so much more that you haven't even played with yet. You haven't encountered yet. You haven't experienced yet. You can get a new card and have it in your deck. You can build out your profile. You can move along a progression path of a campaign. You can evolve those cards and your profile and see new tabletops. There is now a reason, because the object of the game is really to see what else there is this game has to offer. That's why the question we were asking is, how might we extend the player experience, right? With these high priority ideas that we came to, we now have an answer to that question. What else is there, right? Because the core gameplay is one thing, but what else is there? What is the object of the game? What am I doing? Why am I doing this again? Now includes a lot of good answers. And the basic answer is there's more to see. And we just added a bunch of things more to see, more to do, more to achieve. And so now when they ask, what is working against me? We have opponents in a campaign where it gets harder. The opponents get harder. We have, well, conceivably, we have new cards. Shiny new cards that we haven't really detailed yet at all. But conceivably, they are new and shiny and cool and different and surprising and can be used by the opponent and surprise the heck out of you. Your opponent is going to try and use the core gameplay to their advantage, just the same way that you're learning how to use it to yours. There are harder opponents that do that core gameplay better, that might have different cards they use, etc. And what is working for me? Well, we have been working on the core gameplays exclusively. So the answer came from, well, these cards. These cards here are your friend. When you get dealt them, they are on your team. You can pick the ones that are good, and you can have the control over the formation and the marching orders. Go. That's all that was working for you. But now we say you can build a deck. This is a big one because it's definitely working for you. This is a huge incentive. I now have some individuality. I now have some new cards that are going to help me win more matches in the future. These are things that are working for me. And in fact, it needs to be a big incentive because we're asking this to be the incentive for everything else. Like why you have a profile, why you go along a campaign. It's to build the deck and make it better so that you can do more. So it better be good, actually. It better be a good incentive. It is. So I think we arrived at some good ideas here. This is a brainstorming session. This is a process that all forms of design use, and I think the game design community should remember that they're not alone in doing design. So they should use these tools. But Also, um, this now is distilled into a concrete action list. We are definitely going to prioritize new cards that we can use to have players build their own deck. And we could have any number of them, frankly, because the core gameplay needs 50, but we can work out how players use these extra cards such that it doesn't mess up that game balance for the core gameplay and adds to their experience. That supercharge card idea is one good example because it doesn't supplant the card in the deck. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it really has the danger of throwing the game balance off. Supercharging doesn't necessarily do that at all. It just gives you a special advantage, which is something you expend because you put the card down. There's only one. If the other player can do the same, then it's fair. And it can be surprising because we could have lots of different cards. And it can be new and exciting because we can always, conceivably release new card ideas. Sure. So here's an action list. We are definitely going to want to come up with new card ideas. I think that's something we do in the future. I think for tomorrow, our development day, we will focus on a profile and we will focus on profile and being able to save data. It sounds really boring, but it's necessary for everything else we want to do. If we can save some of the progress, we have we're doing well. We can do the other things with saving some progress. I need to end stream and do other things, but I'll be back tomorrow and we'll go ahead and do that. We'll make it so our players can save their progress and save their data, and if there's other items on that short list that we can knock out, we'll do those so that we can go back to the fun part and maybe brainstorm again, but this time about what new cards could our players collect so that they can work with the core gameplay cards and have their own special cards doing special things because they're special. Yes? Thank you. Thank you for watching this VOD. Show up on stream. Follow us. Show up and participate, and we'll build it together. Otherwise, you can just watch me do it. I mean, that's fine too. Watch an ape make a game. Have fun. Take care. See ya. Be good. Bye.